Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
You're obviously very cold. We are right by the door here.
I dressed incorrectly for this evening, I think. I thought the sun would still be out and be quite warm. It was a beautiful day today.
It was gorgeous outside today, but it's cold in here.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, first of all, a couple of the guys at the radio station are avid golfers.
Oh, yeah.
And one of them asked me to ask you, how's your golf game?
It's coming together. I started playing about a year and a half ago. I guess it's a couple years now. And I never expected that I'd ever get interested in this game. I never was, and somehow I slipped into it. And, in my spare time during the winter, of course, in Canada, if things are a lot colder, and there's lots of snow, I usually check into the Betty Ford Clinic. Then they send you over to the Gerald Ford Clinic for golf addicts. So
is that it? Well, they are directly adjacent, aren't they?
That's right, they are.
Now, Neil is an avid cyclist, yes?
That's correct, yep.
So you play golf, Neil cycles.
Right.
What does Getty do?
Getty and I also play a lot of tennis. I try to arrange it so I'll play golf in the morning, and then we'll play tennis in the afternoon. We got out today on this beautiful day and managed to hit the ball for a bit.
Did you?
Yeah.
See, that's so incongruous with the image most people have of major rock and roll people like yourself. Little golf, little tennis.
You'd be surprised how many people play. Tommy Lee's an avid golfer, and there are lots of guys that play tennis. The problem with touring is that after you do it for a number of years, that magic about it goes away. I mean, you always want to do the gig, and the gig is always great, but it's the sitting around that can be troublesome, especially over the course of, in some cases, decades.
Well, I remember Neil once said that he sometimes, if he has time, likes to be dropped off about 50 or 60 miles out of town, and he'll ride his bicycle.
Yeah, he rode 60 miles yesterday. I guess he went down to... A friend of his came down from Livermore. Livermore is north of here.
Actually, it's a little east and
east?
south. Yeah.
Okay, so and they went down along the coast and stuff, and they had about a 60-mile drive, 60-mile ride. Then, and he enjoys it. I mean, the toughest thing to do is to kill those hours that are spent sitting around, either in the dressing room or your hotel room, or you're really waiting for 2 hours. For the whole day, you're waiting for those 2 hours. So unless you find something that can keep you occupied, it just drives you nuts.
And it probably beats Jack Daniels.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to ask you, having seen the sound check and seeing you several times over the years, and as you said, decades, you are still obviously only 3 guys on stage, and still obviously only 3 guys in the studio, and you are still a 3-piece band, bass, guitar, and drums. But as everybody knows, you've been utilizing more effects, more keyboards, and whatnot.
Right.
And that's not an issue so much with the studio work, which you can multi-track and play all you want.
Right.
But your utilization of that material in a live environment, when it is still only 3 of you up there. My question was, is that click-tracked from the booth somehow, or do you guys have...
Oh, no. We trigger everything on stage. Everything is there. It's not a tape loop, or it's not something that's run by the engineer out in the house. And I know you're talking about, keyboard arrangements and things like that we did in the studio. Yes, we take them and we sample them onto another system and take it from there. It's always been important for us to reproduce our records as faithfully as we can. And I don't think, if you've played something in the studio, I don't think you necessarily have to be the one that plays it live on stage, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
With technology the way it's advanced, you can sample it and you can trigger it with a foot pedal, or you can trigger it with a keyboard or whatever. So we've just followed the technology and developed that within the band.
So the parcels of material, like extended runs or chunks thereof, you can sample the whole thing and punch the button, it'll do 10 or 15 seconds worth, or background for a minute and a half or something?
Sure, yeah. If that's the particular thing you want to do.
Okay, and you and Getty both have those at your toe tips, as it were, right? And you both have keyboards, of course, that you both utilize as well. I wanted to ask you if yours is a very sparse stage, as was the case when I saw you a couple of years ago at the Shoreline. And I was wondering if that has been the way you did it always, or have you toned it down? Or
actually, it's been the opposite. This is the first time we've carried staging with us.
Is it?
So the look of the stage is a little different this year. As far as equipment goes, I mean, we went through our phase of having piles and piles of amps on stage and stuff, and that was fine at the time. But quite honestly, putting out that much sound off the stage is not a particularly desirable thing to do in the whole scheme of the sound. I mean, the sound engineer has a much tougher job when you're louder than he is. So a long time ago, we toned down the volume on stage so that it was more controllable. And now we have a fantastic sound man, and his wife is an angel. Actually, he's a bum, but she's great.
Gee, that wouldn't be those two people that just walked by, would it?
Could it have been?
The guy who looked like he was leaving, never to return.
That's right.
Let's touch on that for just a second.
Okay.
He's been with you for some time?
This is his second tour with us, Robert Scoville. And he goes out with Def Leppard and a number of other bands. And
well, that's some serious work. Rush and Def Leppard is a very meticulous live sound to arrange.
He's the best. He really is.
And I would imagine that if a band finds somebody that they can work with well, whose work they like, they like to keep him around. He would be the guy that you would prefer to have with you on the road?
Yes, I think so.
Right. I'm sure he'll be pleased to hear that. How'd you find him?
We'd heard of Robert, through the grapevine. It's very difficult to go out and hear someone else's work in that context over the course of a number of nights. So often, you go out to a place, a particular hall that sounds like crap, and you think, man, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Forget it, pass. But we'd heard a lot of really good things about Robert, and Robert was a fan of the bands from a long time ago when he was growing up. I think originally he's from the Midwest, and when the opportunity arose for him to work with us, he was very excited, as much as we were. So we got together, and it's turned out to be a great relationship.
So after all these years, what was it been, 23 years for you, 24?
Well, something like that. With the band, I guess 24, going into our 24th year.
Okay.
18 years with Neil.
To find yourself in a situation where you can call the shots like that. I wanted to ask you, and then I'll cut you loose because I can see you freezing.
Okay.
I asked this of many people. When you began, and you were struggling, and you were kids, now you're huge. You're global. What do you think when you reflect on what's happened in your life for the past 20 years or so? I'm not asking you how has it changed. I think I'm asking you more, when you were a kid and you were looking out, did you ever think it would be like this?
I sort of think, sheesh, what a crazy life. When we were kids, I mean, and we started this band when we were 15 years old. It was obviously a very exciting thing. It was a fun thing, but we never really looked at it as a career. We wanted it to go on and on and on, but then we never thought that it would be anything like this. And I think it wasn't until we got our record deal and we'd made a few records and started touring that it really started to sink in that this was something that could become a lifelong career. And I mean, I have to admit that a lot of times Getty and I sit on the bus and look at each other and sort of shake our heads. I mean, we were in junior high school together, so we've known each other for a very long time. But we have to laugh that all this has happened to us, and we've managed to remain basically kids, for most of our lives.
Rock and roll does keep you young.
It sure does.
Thank you very much for stopping by.
Oh, my pleasure.
I appreciate it very much.
Oh, you're very welcome.
The show is sold out tonight, but BGP just released a couple of hundred tickets a little earlier this afternoon. I'm sure those are probably gone by now. Still some seats left for tomorrow. The sound check was extraordinary.
Well,
I know. See, one of the things about Rush is that you get so many repeat people who have seen you forever and ever and ever, and the percentage of people who are here to see Rush for the first time is probably rather small. And then they too become repeat concert goers. So we'll look forward to a screaming set from you.
Thank you
very,
very much.
Thanks for joining us. Frank Bennett live backstage with Alex Lifeson from Rush tonight with Primus here at the Oakland Coliseum. And we'll talk to some members of Primus a little later on, and I believe Scott Lewis has a word for us. Yes?